Poor woman shelters a strange man and his sick daughter. She never imagined he was a billionaire. Hi, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Mr. Peter Stories, your own family channel. May the Almighty surround every woman with a protection so strong that no sorrow can touch her, a peace so deep it melts every hidden pain, and a love so gentle it lifts her spirit every single day. May your hearts be comforted, your steps be blessed, and your home be wrapped in warmth that never leaves. You give life, you carry burdens in silence, you pour love even when your own soul is tired, and for that, may endless blessings fall upon you like soft rain. I pray your nights bring calm, your mornings rise with hope, and every closed door opens in your favor. May joy return to you multiplied, may strength hold your hands, and may the Almighty place light in every corner of your life. You are precious, you are honored, and you are loved far more than you know. If your heart is true, like the video. If your love is real, write, "I am with Mr. Peter." The rain hammered against the diner windows like fists demanding entry, and Wilma Gibson counted her tips for the third time, hoping the total would somehow change. $47, 18 hours of work, 3 different jobs, and she had $47 to show for it. Her feet screamed inside shoes with holes worn through the soles, and her lower back throbbed from lifting patients twice her size during her morning shift at Riverside Care Home. But the rent was due in 5 days, and she was still $60 short. "We're closing, honey," called Sandra from behind the counter. The older woman had worked at Joe's Diner for 30 years and knew struggle when she saw it. "You walking home again?" Wilma nodded, stuffing the crumpled bills into her purse. The bus cost $2 each way, $2 she couldn't spare. "It's only a mile." "In this storm? Girl, you're gonna catch pneumonia." "Then I'll treat myself," Wilma said with a tired smile. She'd finished her nursing assistant certification last year and was saving every penny for the full RN program. "See you tomorrow, Sandra." The storm hit her like a physical blow the moment she stepped outside. Within seconds, her thin jacket was soaked through, rain streaming down her face and plastering her hair to her skull. The streets were already flooding, water rushing past her ankles as she trudged toward home. At least the rain hid her tears. Tears of exhaustion, of frustration, of bone-deep loneliness that never quite went away. She was half a block from the diner when she heard the bang. A car door slamming, then frantic footsteps splashing through the water. Wilma turned to see a man running toward the diner, carrying something. No, someone. A child. The little girl's body was limp in his arms, her head lolling against his shoulder. Instinct took over. Wilma ran back, reaching the diner door just as the man did. His face was wild with panic, hair plastered to his forehead, expensive-looking shirt torn and muddy, but it was the terror in his eyes that caught her, raw, desperate, the look of a parent watching their child slip away. "Please," he gasped. "My daughter. She's burning up. The car died a mile back. My phone's dead. The hospitals. They're 40 minutes away and the roads are flooded." Wilma was already reaching for the child. Her hands found the girl's forehead, and she sucked in a sharp breath. Dangerous heat radiated from the small body. The girl's lips were cracked, her breathing shallow and rapid. Fever-seizure territory. "Sandra!" Wilma shouted through the glass. "Call 911. Tell them we have a child with high fever, possible febrile seizure risk." "They're saying 2-hour wait minimum," Sandra called back, phone already pressed to her ear. "The storm's got the whole city backed up." 2 hours. This child didn't have 2 hours. Wilma made a decision that would change everything. "My apartment's 3 blocks away. I'm a nursing assistant. I can bring the fever down. We move now." The man didn't hesitate. "Tell me what to do." They ran through the flooded streets, Wilma leading the way. She kicked open her apartment door, ground floor, 1 room, barely bigger than a closet, and pointed to her bed. "Put her there, strip her down to underwear. I need every fan I have pointed at her now." He moved with military precision, following orders without question. Wilma was already in her tiny bathroom, filling her largest pot with cold water and ice from her freezer, ice she'd been saving for her own aching feet. She grabbed children's fever reducer from her first aid kit, her work thermometer, clean washcloths. "Hold her up," she commanded, and he obeyed. She got medicine down the girl's throat, held her jaw closed until she swallowed. The thermometer reading made her stomach clench, 104.7. Critical. "Ice bath, now!" Together they got the girl into Wilma's bathtub, water cold enough to make even Wilma's teeth chatter. The child whimpered, trying to pull away. "Hold her," Wilma said firmly. "I know it's awful, but we have to break this fever." For the next 3 hours, they worked as a unit. Cool washcloths on forehead, wrists, neck. Monitoring temperature every 15 minutes. More medicine. More ice. The man, she still didn't know his name, never left his daughter's side, whispering to her in a voice raw with fear. "You're doing good, Alice," he murmured. "Just a little longer, baby. This nice lady is helping you." Wilma caught his eyes over the child's head. In the harsh bathroom light, she could see him clearly for the first time. Strong jaw, high cheekbones, dark hair going grey at the temples. Somewhere in his 30s, his clothes were expensive beneath the mud and water damage. She recognized quality even in ruins. But it was his hands that caught her attention. They trembled as they held his daughter, but their touch was infinitely gentle. "She's going to be okay," Wilma said, and meant it. "The fever's starting to break." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something shifted in the air between them. "Who are you?" His voice was barely a whisper. "Wilma Gibson, and you're in my apartment in the worst part of Atlanta, watching me save your daughter's life with stuff from the dollar store." "Brett," he said. "Brett Wayne, and I don't care if we're in a palace or a shack. You're an angel." By dawn, Alice's fever had dropped below 100. She was sleeping peacefully, curled under Wilma's only blanket. Brett sat on the floor beside the bed, head in his hands, shoulders shaking with relief. Wilma had finally collapsed into her single chair, still wearing her soaked diner uniform. She studied him in the grey morning light. His watch, she noticed now, was a Patek Philippe. She'd seen one once in a magazine, knew it cost more than she made in 5 years. His muddy shoes were Italian leather. The phone he'd said was dead had a designer case. This was no ordinary man seeking help from a stranger, but right now, watching him hold his daughter's hand while she slept, he looked like every other terrified parent she'd ever seen. Vulnerable, human, beautiful in his brokenness. Brett lifted his head, caught her watching him. Their eyes held. He started to speak, then stopped, started again. "I don't even know how to begin thanking you." "You don't have to." Wilma stood, every muscle in her body protesting. "I should get ready for work. You can stay until she's strong enough to move. There's food in the fridge. Not much, but help yourself." "You're going to work?" He looked at her like she was insane. "You've been up all night. Bills don't pay themselves." She grabbed her other uniform from the closet. She had exactly 2. "Lock the door when you leave." "Wilma." Something in his voice made her stop. "I don't know what you did to deserve the life you're living, but you deserve better. You deserve everything." The words hit her like a punch to the chest. When was the last time anyone had said she deserved anything? "The world doesn't care what people deserve," she said quietly. "It only cares what they can survive." She left him there with his sleeping daughter and walked to her next shift in yesterday's rain-soaked shoes. She told herself she'd never see Brett Wayne again, that he was just another person passing through her life. She told herself the ache in her chest was exhaustion, nothing more. But as Alice stirred and whispered, "Daddy, is this our new home? Can we stay with the angel?" Brett looked at the empty chair where Wilma had been sitting, and something cracked open inside him. "I wish we could, baby," he whispered back, touching the spot where Wilma had slept. "God help me, I wish we could." Chapter 2. 3 days in paradise. Brett Wayne had stayed in 5-star hotels across 6 continents, but Wilma Gibson's 400-square-foot apartment felt more like home than anywhere he'd been in the last decade. Maybe it was the way morning sunlight slanted through the single window, catching dust motes in golden beams. Maybe it was the sound of Alice's laughter, real laughter, not the polite smile she'd learned to wear around Vanessa and her society friends. Or maybe it was Wilma herself, moving through the cramped space with unconscious grace, humming as she made breakfast from nearly nothing. "Scrambled eggs and toast," she announced, setting plates on the wobbly table. "Not exactly gourmet." "It's perfect," Brett said, and meant it. Alice devoured her portion like she hadn't eaten in days. In truth, she probably hadn't, not really. Vanessa believed children should maintain presentation weight for photos. Brett's stomach turned, remembering the arguments, the controlled portions, his daughter's hungry eyes. Wilma watched Alice eat with a small smile. "Slow down, sweetie. Food's not going anywhere." "It's so good," Alice mumbled through a mouthful of eggs. "Better than anything our cook makes." "Your cook?" Wilma's eyebrow rose. She glanced at Brett, question in her eyes. He busied himself with his coffee, instant, but somehow she'd made it taste decent. "Alice exaggerates, kids, you know." But Wilma was smart, observant. He could see her cataloguing details. His watch, his shoes, the way he held himself despite the disheveled appearance. She knew he wasn't telling her everything. She just didn't know how much he was hiding. The storm continued through that first day, rain hammering the roof, wind howling through the streets. The news reported flooding throughout the city, bridges closed, roads impassable. They were trapped together, three strangers in a space barely big enough for one. "I should go to work," Wilma said, checking her phone for the 10th time. "I'm already missing my shift at the care home." "You worked all night saving my daughter," Brett said firmly. "Call in sick, please." "I can't afford sick days." "Then let me—" He stopped himself. She'd already refused when he'd tried to give her money for the medicine, the ice, the food. Pride radiated from her like heat. "Let me at least cook. You rest." She studied him with those keen, dark eyes. "You cook." "I can manage not to burn toast." He stood, gently pushed her toward the chair. "Sit, rest. Let someone take care of you for once." Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe, or longing. When was the last time anyone had taken care of her? Brett found himself desperately wanting to know everything about this woman who'd saved his daughter without hesitation, who worked herself to exhaustion, who lived in a space smaller than his closet, but somehow made it feel like a sanctuary. He burned the first batch of toast. Wilma laughed, really laughed, and the sound hit him like lightning. Alice giggled, and suddenly they were all laughing, and Brett couldn't remember the last time he'd felt this light. "Here, move over." Wilma hip-checked him away from the stove. "You're hopeless." They cooked together in the tiny kitchen, shoulders brushing, hands accidentally touching. Every contact sent electricity through him. She smelled like cocoa butter and something floral, simple, clean, nothing like Vanessa's expensive perfumes. Real. Alice watched them with knowing eyes beyond her years. "You like Miss Wilma, Daddy?" "Alice!" Brett felt heat flood his face. "It's okay," Alice continued, oblivious to his discomfort. "She's nice, nicer than Mommy." The temperature in the room dropped. Wilma glanced at Brett, question and concern mingling in her expression. "Your wife?" she asked quietly. "It's complicated." The understatement of the century. "We're separated." "But you went back," Alice said, innocent and devastating. "You always go back when she cries." Brett wanted the floor to swallow him. Wilma's face had gone carefully neutral, the walls coming up. "Alice, why don't you watch something on my tablet?" she said gently. "I need to talk to your dad." Once Alice was occupied, Wilma turned to him. "You want to tell me what's really going on?" He could lie. Should lie. Instead, he found himself telling the truth. "My marriage has been over for years. We stay together for Alice, for appearances, for a lot of bad reasons." He ran a hand through his hair. "My wife, Vanessa, she's not well. Mentally, emotionally. She threatens things when I try to leave. And Alice. He looked at his daughter, absorbed in a cartoon. I can't put her through a custody battle. Not yet. So you're trapped. Wilma's voice was soft, understanding. I was, Brett said, looking directly at her. Until 3 days ago. The air between them charged with possibility. Wilma broke eye contact first, busying herself with dishes. You don't know me. I know you saved my daughter. I know you work 3 jobs. I know you have more strength in your little finger than most people have in their whole bodies. He moved closer, not touching but wanting to. I know that in one night you made me feel more alive than I have in a decade. Brett. His name on her lips sent heat through him. This isn't real. It's proximity, gratitude. When you go back to your real life. I work in tech, he interrupted. It wasn't a complete lie. Wayne Global Technologies was his company after all. Business, office stuff, it's complicated and boring. But this? He gestured around the apartment at her, at Alice. This is real. These 3 days are the realest thing I've felt in years. She wanted to believe him. He could see it in her eyes, the way she swayed slightly toward him. What happens when the storm ends? I don't know, he admitted, but I know I want to find out. Don't you? The second day passed in a bubble of domesticity. Brett fixed her broken cabinet with tools borrowed from the building superintendent. Wilma taught Alice how to make friendship bracelets with embroidery thread. They played cards, told stories, existed in a space outside of time and consequence. That night, after Alice fell asleep, they sat on the floor together, backs against the bed, talking in whispers. Wilma told him about her mother, dead from cancer when Wilma was 19, about raising herself, fighting for every inch of ground, about dreams of becoming a full RN, maybe opening her own practice someday. You will, Brett said with certainty. You'll do all of it. You don't know that. Yes, I do, because you're extraordinary, Wilma Gibson. She turned to him so close he could count her eyelashes. Who are you, really? Someone who wants to be here with you more than anywhere else in the world. On the 3rd day, the rain finally stopped. The news reported roads clearing, bridges reopening. Their bubble was about to burst. Brett felt panic rise in his chest. He wasn't ready. He'd never be ready to leave this place, this woman. Wilma felt it too. She moved through the morning with quiet sadness, preparing Alice for departure. You're strong enough to travel now, sweetheart. But I don't want to go, Alice whined. I like it here. I like you. I like you too, baby girl. Wilma hugged her tight. But your daddy needs to get you home to your real life. This felt like real life, Alice whispered. Brett's heart shattered. He pulled Wilma aside while Alice gathered her things. Come with us. What? Come with us. Let me set you up somewhere better than this. Let me... No. Her voice was firm. I don't need rescuing, Brett. I need to build my own life. Then let me be part of it. Give me 2 weeks to sort things out with Vanessa, to talk to my lawyers about custody. 2 weeks and I'll come back for you. We'll figure this out together. Wilma searched his face. You promise? I swear on my daughter's life. 2 weeks, and I'm coming back for you. They stood at her door, Alice between them. The little girl hugged Wilma one more time. You're the best, Miss Wilma. We'll come back and you can be my new mummy. Tears streamed down Wilma's face. Brett couldn't stop himself. He pulled her close, kissed her with everything he felt. She kissed him back, fierce and desperate, tasting of salt and hope. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. 2 weeks, he whispered against her lips. 2 weeks, she echoed. She watched them drive away in his car, a gleaming luxury sedan that had been towed back, making her stomach drop at the confirmation of his wealth. But he'd promised. He'd kissed her. He'd sworn on Alice's life. Wilma touched her lips, let herself dream of possibilities. For the first time in her life, she imagined a future that didn't involve working herself to death, didn't involve being alone. A future with a man who looked at her like she hung the moon, with a little girl who called her an angel. She went inside, saw the note on her pillow. Brett's handwriting, strong and sure. "Thank you for saving my daughter. Thank you for saving me. I'm coming back. Wait for me. B." Wilma pressed the note to her chest and whispered, "I'll wait." Chapter 3. The unraveling Wilma Googled Brett Wayne exactly 4 hours after he left. She told herself it was curiosity, nothing more. She typed his name into her phone's search bar, fingers shaking slightly, and hit enter. The first result made her stomach drop. Brett Wayne, CEO, Wayne Global Technologies, net worth estimated at $8 billion. $8 billion. The next link was worse. Brett and Vanessa Wayne celebrate 10th wedding anniversary at exclusive Manhattan gala. The photo showed them together, him in a tuxedo, her in a dress that probably cost more than Wilma's annual income. They looked perfect, matched, like they belonged together in a way Wilma never could. She scrolled frantically through more images. Brett at tech conferences. Brett accepting awards. Brett and Vanessa and Alice at charity events. The picture of family perfection. The most recent photo was dated from last month. Wayne marriage stronger than ever after brief separation, sources say. Brief separation. Was that what she'd been? A brief separation distraction? Wilma's phone slipped from nerveless fingers. She'd known he had money, the watch, the car, the way he carried himself. But $8 billion, and married. Still married, despite what he'd said about separation. She picked up her phone, looked at the number he'd programmed into it. Brett Wayne, CEO. The title mocked her. He'd said he worked in tech. Technically true, in the way saying the sun was kind of warm was technically true. 3 days passed. Wilma worked her shifts in a daze, exhaustion and heartbreak making her clumsy. She dropped a tray at the diner, snapped at a patient at the care home. Sandra cornered her in the bathroom. "That man who came in during the storm, he do something to you?" "He promised something he can't deliver," Wilma said quietly. 4 days. 5. She told herself he'd call when he was ready, when he'd figured things out with his wife. $8 billion things took time to sort out. But doubt gnawed at her. She'd been so stupid, believing a man like him could want a woman like her. It was a fairy tale, and she'd stopped believing in fairy tales when her mother died. On day 7, she broke. She called his number, heart hammering. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a woman's voice, cool and cultured. Brett Wayne's phone. Not Brett. A woman. Wilma's mouth went dry. "I need to speak with Brett, please." "May I ask who's calling?" "Wilma Gibson. He'll know who I am." A pause, then ice dripping from every word. "Miss Gibson, I'm Vanessa Wayne, Brett's wife. Let me save you some time and embarrassment. Whatever you think happened between you and my husband during our brief marital difficulty, it's over. Brett is committed to his family. He's asked me to handle any complications from that period. Please don't call this number again." The line went dead. Wilma stood in her apartment, phone pressed to her ear, listening to silence. His wife answered his phone. His wife, who knew her name, who'd been told to handle complications. She was a complication, nothing more. Wilma called again the next day, desperation overriding pride. A different voice answered, professional, cold. "Wayne Global Technologies, executive line. I need to speak with Brett Wayne. Do you have an appointment?" "No, but he knows me. Tell him Wilma Gibson is calling." A long pause. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Mr. Wayne is in Paris on business and is not taking unsolicited calls. If this is regarding personal matters, I'm instructed to refer you to his attorney." Paris. With his family, probably. While she waited in her crumbling apartment, counting tips, believing his promises. She tried twice more over the next few days. Same secretary, same message. On the 3rd attempt, the woman's voice turned sharp. "Mom, I'm going to have to ask you to stop calling. Mr. Wayne has made it clear he doesn't wish to be contacted by you. Continued calls will be considered harassment." Harassment! She was harassing him by trying to reach the man who'd kissed her, promised her, sworn on his daughter's life that he'd come back. On day 12, she saw the newspaper article at the diner. Someone had left the business section on the counter, and there it was, front page. Power couple reunited. Brett and Vanessa Wayne recommit to marriage after brief separation. The photo showed them at a Paris gala, kissing. Not a polite peck, a real kiss, his hand on her face, her arms around his neck. They looked happy, in love. The article gushed about their renewed commitment to each other and their daughter, about how they'd worked through their difficulties and emerged stronger. Wilma read it 3 times, each word driving deeper like a knife. Then she went to the bathroom and threw up. She was late. Her period was never late, always regular, always predictable, like clockwork. Except now it was day 14, and nothing. Wilma bought the pregnancy test with money she needed for groceries, sat on her bathroom floor, the same floor where she'd fought for Alice's life, where Brett had held his daughter and looked at her like she was a miracle. She peed on the stick with shaking hands and waited. 2 lines, clear as day. Pregnant. She was pregnant, alone, abandoned by a billionaire who'd sworn he loved her. The laugh that bubbled up from her throat was half sob, half hysteria. Of course this would be her life. She called his number one last time, needed to tell him, needed him to know what his promises had cost her. A woman answered, not the secretary, not Vanessa. Someone new. I need to speak to Brett Wayne. It's urgent. Who may I say is calling? Wilma Gibson. A long silence. Then, Miss Gibson, this is Brett's personal assistant. I've been instructed to tell you that any further attempts to contact Mr. Wayne will result in a restraining order. He's reconciling with his wife and daughter. Whatever relationship you believe you had with him is over. Please respect his family and move on. I'm pregnant, Wilma said flatly. I'm pregnant with his child. Another pause. That's unfortunate, Miss Gibson, but Mr. Wayne has made his position clear. If you choose to proceed with the pregnancy, that's your decision. But don't expect any involvement or support from him. Good luck. Click. Wilma sat on her bathroom floor, pregnancy test in one hand, dead phone in the other. The walls of her tiny apartment pressed in on her. She thought about the last 2 weeks, the hope, the dreams, the stupid, naive belief that a man like Brett Wayne could love a woman like her. She thought about his hands on her face, his promise, his kiss. She thought about Alice saying, "You can be my new mummy." All lies, all of it. Wilma stood up, looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were hollow, her face gaunt from stress and skipped meals. She looked broken, defeated. No. She straightened her spine, lifted her chin. Brett Wayne had broken her heart, but he wouldn't break her spirit. She was Wilma Gibson, and she'd survived worse than abandonment. She'd survived her mother's death, survived poverty, survived a world that told her daily she didn't matter. She touched her still flat stomach. You and me, she whispered. We don't need him. We don't need anyone. She took the napkin where she'd written his number, the note he'd left on her pillow, and burned them in her kitchen sink. Watched the paper curl and blacken, watched his promises turn to ash. I'm going to build something so powerful, she said to the flames, that one day you'll see my face and realize what you threw away. The fire consumed the last traces of Brett Wayne from her apartment, but the baby growing inside her, that was hers. That was real, and she would protect this child with everything she had, even if it killed her, even if she had to work herself to death. She would survive. She always did. Chapter 4. The transformation begins. Morning sickness hit Wilma during her shift at the care home. She barely made it to the bathroom before throwing up everything she'd managed to eat that morning, half a piece of toast and instant coffee. She rinsed her mouth, splashed water on her face, and went back to work. Mrs. Patterson in room 7 needed her bedpan changed, and bills didn't stop because you were pregnant and abandoned. 3 months pregnant, and she was still working 3 jobs. The exhaustion was crushing, but the alternative was homelessness. She'd done the math over and over, lying awake at night with her hand on her barely there bump. The math that didn't add up, the math that said she couldn't do this alone, but she had to, so she would. Wilma, you look terrible, Sandra said one evening at the diner. When's the last time you ate a real meal? Can't afford real meals. Wilma wiped down tables, fighting another wave of nausea. The smell of grease made her stomach revolt. Rent's due tomorrow. I'm short. Sandra studied her with knowing eyes. How far along are you? Wilma's hands stilled. What? Honey, I've had 4 kids. I know that look. How far along? Tears pricked Wilma's eyes. She told no one, held the secret close like a shield. But Sandra's kindness cracked something open. 14 weeks. I'm keeping it. I don't know how, but I am. The father. Gone. Not coming back. The words still tasted bitter. Sandra pulled her into a hug right there in the middle of the diner. Then you'll do it without him. Women have been doing the impossible since the beginning of time. You're stronger than you know, baby girl. That night, Wilma made the hardest decision of her life. She quit the diner and the cleaning service, kept only the care home job, the one with benefits, the one that would cover prenatal care and delivery. She took her savings, pitifully small, and enrolled in the accelerated RN program at the community college. If she could finish before the baby came, she'd double her salary. She attended classes in the evening, worked during the day, and studied through the night, survived on crackers and ginger tea and sheer determination. When her clothes stopped fitting, she bought maternity scrubs from the thrift store. When her body screamed for rest, she drank more coffee and pushed harder. In her healthcare management class, the instructor posed a question. What gaps do you see in our current healthcare system? Wilma's hand shot up. Mobile care for underserved populations. People who can't get to hospitals, can't afford transportation. Bring the healthcare to them instead of expecting them to come to us. The instructor paused. Interesting. You have experience with this demographic. I am this demographic, Wilma said simply. For her final project, she developed a complete business plan. Gibson Care, a mobile healthcare service using converted vans. She researched costs, projected revenue, mapped out underserved areas in Atlanta. Her professor gave her an A and said 3 words that changed everything. This could work. Could. Might. Possibly. Wilma was so tired of maybes. She was 36 weeks pregnant when she took her RN licensing exam. Her back ached, her ankles were swollen, and the baby was doing somersaults on her bladder. But she walked out of that testing center with her head high and a feeling in her gut that she'd passed. 2 weeks later, Zara Gibson came into the world screaming. Wilma labored alone except for the nurses, no partner to hold her hand, no family to celebrate with. When they placed the baby on her chest, 7 pounds of perfection with a full head of dark hair and Brett Wayne's exact eyes, Wilma sobbed. I'm sorry, she whispered to her daughter. I'm sorry you only have me, but I promise I will be enough for both of us. She named her after her own mother, Zara, which meant princess, because this baby girl would be treated like royalty, even if they lived in poverty, especially because they lived in poverty. Wilma brought Zara home to the same crumbling apartment where she'd saved Alice's life, where Brett had kissed her and lied to her. She looked at her daughter's face, so like his it hurt, and made a vow. Your father doesn't know you exist, and he never will. He gave up that right when he abandoned us. You're mine, Zara. All mine. The first year was brutal. Wilma survived on 3 hours of sleep a night, nursing Zara while studying for her business license, working shifts at the care home with her daughter strapped to her chest. Other mothers had partners, support systems, help. Wilma had willpower and rage and love so fierce it burned. She passed her licensing exam on the first try, used a small business loan, high interest, nearly predatory terms, to buy a used van. Spent 2 months converting it to a mobile clinic with help from a mechanic who accepted payment in installments. Gibson Care was born from desperation and determination, and the need to prove that she could build something from nothing. The first day, she had 2 patients. The second day, 5. By the end of the month, she was booked solid. Word spread in the community she served. There was a nurse who came to you, who charged on a sliding scale, who treated everyone with dignity regardless of their ability to pay. She was making barely enough to cover expenses, but she was building something. Zara turned 1, then 2, then 3. Wilma watched her daughter grow, saw Brett's features emerging in her face, his eyes, his smile, his stubborn determination. Sometimes it hurt so much she could barely breathe. Other times, she was grateful for the visual reminder of what she'd overcome. She bought a second van, then a third, hired 2 other nurses, single mothers like her, who understood the mission. Gibson Care expanded into neighboring counties. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution ran a small feature. Local nurse brings health care to the people. Wilma framed the article, hung it in her new apartment. Still small, still shabby, but 3 rooms now. Progress. She was moving forward, inch by painful inch. On Zara's 3rd birthday, Wilma sat her daughter down with a cupcake and a single candle. "Make a wish, baby." Zara closed her eyes tight, then blew out the flame. "I wished for a daddy," she said simply. Wilma's heart cracked. "Sweetie, Tiana at daycare has a daddy, and so does Riley. Don't I get one? Your daddy, he can't be here." What else could she say? That he'd chosen his perfect life over them, that he'd threatened her with restraining orders, that he'd called his own child an unfortunate complication. "Is he dead?" Zara asked with 3-year-old bluntness. "No, baby, he's just far away." "Will he ever come back?" Wilma pulled her daughter close. "No, Zara, he won't. But you have me, and I love you enough for 2 parents, I promise." But as she held her daughter, Wilma felt the old anger resurface. Brett Wayne was somewhere living his perfect billionaire life, probably not thinking about them at all, while she worked herself to exhaustion every single day just to keep them afloat. She'd meant it when she said he was dead to her, but some part of her, some small, stupid, hopeful part, still wondered if he ever thought about those 3 days, if he ever wondered what happened to the woman he'd kissed in a storm. Probably not. Men like him didn't look back. They just moved forward, leaving destruction in their wake. 2 more years passed. Gibson Care grew to 15 mobile units across Georgia. The state awarded them a massive contract to provide services in underserved rural areas. Wilma's salary jumped from barely surviving to actually comfortable. She moved into a real house, small, but with a yard for Zara to play in. She was 33 years old, a successful businesswoman, a devoted mother. She'd built everything from nothing, without help, without him. The invitation came on a Tuesday. National Healthcare Innovation Summit, Chicago, featured speaker opportunity. Wilma stared at the email, her vision blurring with tears. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. She accepted immediately, not bothering to read the full agenda. It never occurred to her to check who the keynote speaker was. Why would it? Brett Wayne was dead to her, had been for 5 years. She'd buried him along with her naive hope that love could conquer all, that a man's promises meant anything, that fairy tales came true for women who grew up poor and black and alone. She'd learned better. She'd learned to save herself. And as she stood in front of her mirror, practicing her speech, Wilma Gibson smiled. She was about to show the world what happened when you abandoned a woman like her. You created a warrior, an empire builder, someone who didn't need saving because she'd learned to save herself. Let Brett Wayne live his billionaire life. She had her own kingdom now, and she'd built it stone by stone with her own bleeding hands while carrying their daughter on her back. She'd won, even if he never knew it. She'd won. Chapter 5. The Empire. Zara was 5 years old when she asked the question that changed everything. They were eating breakfast, Wilma's specialty of scrambled eggs and toast, in their small kitchen. Sunlight streamed through the window, catching in her daughter's curls, and Wilma felt a moment of pure contentment. This life they'd built together was good. Hard-won, but good. "Mummy, why don't other kids' mummies work like you?" Wilma looked up from her coffee. "What do you mean, baby?" "Riley's mommy stays home. Tiana's mommy only works 3 days. But you work every day, even weekends." Zara's voice was matter-of-fact, not accusatory, just curious. The guilt hit like a punch. I work a lot because I'm building something important. Do you understand that? Building what? A better life. For us, for people who need help. Wilma pulled her daughter onto her lap. One day you'll understand. Everything I do for you. But you're always tired, Mommy. She was. Bone-tired, soul-tired, the kind of exhaustion that lived in her marrow. But she couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. Because stopping meant sliding backward, and backward led back to that crumbling apartment, back to counting tips, back to being powerless. That same week, she got the call that validated every sacrifice. The Georgia Department of Health wanted to expand their contract. Not just expand, triple it. 15 more mobile units, coverage across the entire state. A budget that made Wilma's hands shake as she read the numbers. You've proven the model works, the department head said. Your patient outcomes are exceptional. Your cost effectiveness is unmatched. We want Gibson Care to be the template for the whole Southeast. Wilma hung up and cried. 5 years of grinding work, of choosing between groceries and business expenses, of missing Zara's bedtimes and school events because she was out in the vans treating patients. It had all led to this. She hired a real staff, a business manager, a scheduling coordinator, 3 more nurses. Moved Gibson Care out of her spare bedroom and into an actual office. Bought 15 new vans, properly equipped with the latest medical technology. She was no longer a struggling single mother with a van and a dream. She was the CEO of a legitimate healthcare company. The media attention followed. Healthcare podcasts wanted interviews. She was invited to speak at nursing conferences. A local news station did a profile. The Iron Nurse, how one woman is revolutionizing healthcare delivery. The nickname stuck. The Iron Nurse. She liked it. Liked that people saw her as strong, unbreakable. No one needed to know about the night she cried herself to sleep, overwhelmed by responsibility. No one needed to know about the loneliness that sometimes felt like it would swallow her whole. She dated occasionally. The business manager introduced her to his brother. Nice guy, stable job, liked kids. They went out 3 times. On the 3rd date, he reached for her hand across the table, and Wilma felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm sorry, she said, pulling away. I can't do this. Is there someone else? He asked, not angry, just curious. No. There's no room, I'm sorry. She stopped trying after that. She had Zara, had her business, had her mission. Romance was for people with space in their lives, time to waste on feelings. She'd learned that lesson 5 years ago, learned it so hard it had carved itself into her bones. Trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. The invitation to the National Healthcare Innovation Summit came in spring. Wilma read it 3 times, certain it was a mistake. They wanted her as a featured speaker, not a panelist, not a workshop leader, a featured speaker. On the main stage, discussing disrupting traditional healthcare models. She accepted immediately, then panicked. She'd never spoken to a crowd larger than 50 people. This would be hundreds, maybe thousands. Industry leaders, academics, CEOs of major healthcare corporations. What if she froze? What if they looked at her and saw what she'd been? A broke nursing assistant with holes in her shoes, instead of what she'd become. You're going to be amazing, her business manager said when she voiced her fears. You've lived this. They've just studied it. Real experience beats theory every time. Wilma spent weeks preparing her presentation, rewrote it a dozen times, practiced in front of her staff, in front of her mirror, in front of Zara. Her daughter listened with 5-year-old patience, then said, Mommy, you're really good at talking about helping people. The simplicity of it struck her. She was good at this. She'd lived it, fought for it, built it with her own hands. She just needed to tell that story. She flew to Chicago on a sunny morning in late May, Zara staying with her business manager's wife. The conference was at a massive hotel downtown, the kind of place Wilma had only seen in magazines. She checked into her room, paid for by the conference, thank God, and stood at the window overlooking the city. You've come so far, she whispered to her reflection. Don't forget that. The night before her presentation, she attended the opening reception, mingled with people who ran hospital systems and pharmaceutical companies who had MBAs from Harvard and Stanford. She wore a simple black dress, the nicest thing she owned, and held her wine glass like a shield. "Wilma Gibson?" A man approached, hand extended. "I'm Dr. James Burton from Johns Hopkins. I've been following your work. Absolutely fascinating model." They talked for 20 minutes about healthcare delivery systems, about underserved populations, about the economics of mobile care. He treated her like an equal, like her opinion mattered. By the end of the conversation, she was glowing. She could do this. She belonged here. Her presentation was scheduled for 2 p.m. the next day. She woke early, went for a run along the lakefront to burn off nervous energy, ran through her speech one more time. The conference agenda listed the other featured speakers, CEOs, department heads, a few academics, and then she saw it. Keynote speaker, 11 a.m., Brett Wayne, CEO of Wayne Global Technologies, discussing AI integration in healthcare delivery systems. Her vision tunneled. The room spun. Brett Wayne, here, in this hotel, giving the keynote speech hours before her presentation. For 5 years, she'd imagined seeing him again, imagined what she'd say, how she'd feel, imagined confronting him with Zara, showing him what he'd thrown away. But those were fantasies, never meant to become reality. Now reality was crashing down around her, and she couldn't breathe. She called her business manager. "I need to leave, now." "What?" "Wilma, your presentation is today, you can't—" "He's here. Brett Wayne. He's giving the keynote." A long silence. Her business manager knew the story, most of it anyway. Knew about the abandonment, though not about the billions or the promises or the way her heart had shattered. "Do you want me to call and cancel? I can tell them you're sick." Did she? The old Wilma, the broken one, would have run, would have protected herself at all costs. But that Wilma was gone. She died in that crumbling apartment 5 years ago. The woman who'd risen from those ashes was made of steel and fire and determination that couldn't be broken. "No," she said, her voice steady. "No, I'm not running. Not from him, not from anyone. I've earned my place here. That's my girl. Go show them what you're made of." Wilma dressed carefully in her best suit, navy blue, professional armor, put on makeup with a steady hand, looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. This was who she'd become, someone who didn't run, someone who didn't break. She skipped the keynote speech, couldn't bear to see him, to hear his voice, to be reminded of those 3 days when she'd been foolish enough to believe in fairy tales. Instead, she stayed in her room, went over her presentation one more time, breathed through the panic. At 1:45, she made her way to the conference hall. Her hands were steady, her breathing was controlled. She was ready. The moderator introduced her. Wilma Gibson, founder and CEO of Gibson Care, speaking on community-based healthcare innovation. She walked onto that stage, and the lights blinded her for a moment. As her eyes adjusted, she scanned the audience, hundreds of faces looking up at her expectantly. And there, in the front row, sat Brett Wayne. Their eyes met. His face went slack with shock, all the color draining away. He looked older, grey at his temples, lines around his eyes she didn't remember. But it was him, undeniably him. For a heartbeat, Wilma forgot how to breathe. Then training took over. She smiled, professional and cold, and began her speech. 5 years ago, I was a nursing assistant working 3 jobs. Today, I run a healthcare company that serves 50,000 patients across Georgia. This is the story of how I got here and why the model we built matters. She didn't look at him again. Not once during her entire presentation. She spoke about mobile healthcare, about reaching underserved populations, about the economics of compassionate care. She was brilliant, compelling, everything she'd worked to become. The audience gave her a standing ovation. She accepted it with grace, answered questions with expertise, and walked off that stage with her head high. She made it to the hallway before her legs gave out. Brett Wayne was here, in this hotel, had watched her present, knew she existed, knew she'd succeeded, knew she wasn't the broken woman he'd left behind, and God help her, she had no idea what happened next. Chapter 6. The Collision. Wilma locked herself in a bathroom stall and tried to remember how to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Basic biology. She'd taught this to panic attack patients 100 times. Now she was the one spiraling, fingers shaking, heart hammering against her ribs like it wanted to escape. 5 years. 5 years of building walls, of convincing herself she was over it, that he meant nothing. 5 minutes of eye contact and every brick came tumbling down. She heard the bathroom door open, footsteps approaching. A woman's voice, concerned. "Excuse me, are you okay in there?" "Fine," Wilma managed. "Just need a minute." The footsteps retreated. She heard the door close. Silence. She emerged from the stall, splashed cold water on her face. Her reflection looked back at her, makeup smudged, eyes wild. This wasn't the powerful CEO who'd just commanded a stage. This was the abandoned woman who'd cried herself to sleep for months, who'd called a disconnected number over and over just to hear his voicemail, who'd loved a liar. No. She straightened her spine, fixed her lipstick with steady hands. That woman was gone. Dead. Buried. This was Wilma Gibson, founder of Gibson Care, featured speaker at a national conference. Brett Wayne was nothing, a ghost from a past life that no longer had any power over her. She walked out of that bathroom with her head high, made it 3 steps before she saw him. He stood in the hallway, back against the wall, looking like he'd seen a ghost, which, in a way, he had. She'd vanished 5 years ago, and here she was, successful and powerful, and everything he'd never imagined she could become. Wilma. His voice cracked on her name. God. Wilma. Mr. Wayne. Her voice was arctic. Enjoy the presentation. I've been looking for you for 5 years. The words tumbled out desperate, raw. I hired investigators. I searched everywhere. You moved, changed your number, just vanished. That was the point. Please, can we talk? 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. You had your 5 minutes 5 years ago. You spent them lying. She started to walk past him. He blocked her path. Not aggressively, but she couldn't get around him without making a scene. I know I have no right to ask for anything, but please let me explain. Explain what? That you're a billionaire who slummed with a poor nurse for 3 days? That you promised to come back and instead had your wife answer your phone? That you threatened me with restraining orders? Which part needs explaining exactly? His face went grey. Restraining orders? I never... Your assistant did. When I called to tell you I was pregnant. The world stopped. Wilma watched the information hit him like a physical blow. His legs actually buckled, and he caught himself against the wall. Pregnant. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of absolute devastation. You were pregnant. Past tense. I was pregnant. Alone. While you were in Paris with your wife. I didn't know. His voice broke completely. God, Wilma, I swear I didn't know. If I had, you would have what? Come running? You couldn't even return my calls. Because my lawyers told me any contact with you would cost me custody of Alice. Vanessa, she found out about those 3 days. She had a complete breakdown, threatened to kill herself and take Alice with her. The custody evaluation, they said one wrong move and I'd lose my daughter. I couldn't risk it. Wilma laughed, sharp and bitter. So you sacrificed me to keep her. How noble. I tried to find you after the custody agreement was final. 6 months later when it was safe. But you'd moved. Your number was disconnected. Your job didn't have records. It's like you'd never existed. Because I didn't. Not in your world. I was a complication to be handled. Your assistant made that very clear. I never sent anyone to threaten you. I swear on Alice's life. He stopped, realizing the weight of that phrase. You have every right not to believe me. But Wilma, if you were pregnant, what happened? She should walk away. Should end this conversation and never look back. But something in his face, the genuine horror, the devastation, made her cruel, made her want to hurt him the way he'd hurt her. I had the baby, a daughter. She's 5 years old. The color drained from his face completely. He swayed, reached for the wall again. "I have a daughter," a whisper, barely audible. "I have another daughter." "No." Her voice was steel. "I have a daughter. You have nothing." "Where is she? What's her name? You need to stay away from us. You gave up any right to her when you abandoned us." "I didn't abandon you. I didn't know. You didn't try hard enough." The words exploded out of her, 5 years of rage breaking through her careful control. "You're a billionaire with unlimited resources, and you couldn't find one nursing assistant in Atlanta? You didn't want to find me. I didn't fit into your perfect life." "My life hasn't been perfect. It's been hell. My marriage fell apart anyway. Vanessa had affairs, drained my accounts, turned Alice against me. She finally left 2 years ago. I've been alone, miserable, searching for you." "Good." The word was vicious. "You deserved every second of that misery." "Yes." He nodded, tears streaming down his face openly. "Yes, I did. I do. But our daughter, she doesn't deserve to grow up without knowing her father. Please, Wilma, I'm begging you, let me meet her." "Why should I?" "So you can disappoint her the way you disappointed me. So you can make promises you won't keep. She's happy. She's healthy. She doesn't need you. But I need her." His voice broke completely. "I've lost 5 years. Please don't make me lose any more." The hotel room door behind Wilma opened. A woman emerged, her business manager's wife, who'd flown up with Zara as a surprise for her after the presentation, and holding her hand, bouncing with excitement at seeing her mother, was Zara. "Mommy!" She ran forward, pigtails flying. Wilma's heart stopped. "No, not like this, not here." Brett saw her, saw his eyes in her face, his smile, his stubborn chin, saw irrefutable proof that he had another daughter, that Wilma had been telling the truth, that he'd missed 5 years of his child's life. He dropped to his knees right there in the hallway. A sound came out of him that wasn't quite a sob, wasn't quite a word, just raw, animal grief. Zara stopped, uncertain. "Mommy, why's that man crying?" Wilma scooped her daughter up, held her close. "Nobody, baby. Just someone who used to know Mommy a long time ago." Brett looked up at them, his face destroyed. "She has my eyes. She has nothing of yours. You weren't there when I was sick every morning for 4 months. You weren't there when I went into labor alone. You weren't there for her first word, her first steps, her first day of school. You don't get to claim her now." "Mommy, is he sad?" Zara asked, concerned. She had a big heart, Wilma's daughter, worried about strangers, wanted to help everyone, just like her mother. "Yes, baby, he's very sad, but it's not our problem." Wilma carried her daughter past Brett Wayne, who was still on his knees in the hotel hallway, crying like his heart was breaking, which it probably was. Good. She hoped it shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. She hoped he felt a fraction of the pain he'd caused her. She made it to the elevator before Zara asked, "Was that my daddy?" Wilma's hands shook so badly she almost dropped her. "What?" "My daddy. The one who's far away. Was that him?" "How did you—" "I have his eyes. You said so. When I asked why mine are different from yours." Zara touched her mother's face with perfect 5-year-old logic. "So if he has the same eyes, he must be my daddy." Wilma leaned against the elevator wall, her daughter in her arms, and felt something crack open in her chest. 5 years of armor, 5 years of protection, and it took her daughter 30 seconds to see the truth she'd tried so hard to hide. "Yes," she whispered. "That was your father." Why was he crying? Because he made a very big mistake a long time ago, and now he knows what it cost him. What did it cost him? Wilma looked at her daughter, perfect, beautiful, brilliant Zara, who'd never known her father, who'd grown up with only one parent because Wilma had been too proud and too hurt to even try to reach out after those first awful attempts, who'd missed having a father because her mother couldn't forgive. "It cost him you," Wilma said quietly. "It cost him everything." The elevator doors opened. She carried Zara to their room, laid her down for a nap, and then sat on the hotel bed and let herself fall apart. 5 years of holding it together, and it all came crashing down in one afternoon. Her phone buzzed, a text from a number she didn't recognize. "I'm not leaving Chicago until you talk to me. I don't care if it takes days, weeks. I will wait as long as it takes, please. Give me a chance to explain, to know my daughter, to make this right. Brett." Wilma stared at the message. Right. Like anything could ever be made right. Like there was any coming back from this kind of devastation. But Zara had asked about her father, wanted to know why he was crying, and maybe, just maybe, Wilma owed it to her daughter to at least listen to his explanation. Even if it changed nothing. Even if she'd never forgive him. Even if seeing him again destroyed what was left of her carefully reconstructed heart. She typed back, "Lobby bar, 9 p.m. You get 30 minutes, then you leave us alone forever." His response was immediate. "Thank you. God, Wilma. Thank you." She deleted the thread and closed her eyes. In 6 hours, she'd faced the man who'd broken her. The man who'd given her Zara. The man she'd loved and hated in equal measure for 5 long years, and she had absolutely no idea if she was strong enough to survive it. Chapter 7. The Siege. Brett was already at the hotel bar when Wilma arrived, sitting at a corner booth with an untouched whiskey in front of him. He looked like he'd aged a decade in the 6 hours since their hallway confrontation. Haggard, hollow-eyed, broken. Good. She slid into the opposite side of the booth, spine straight, face carefully neutral. "You have 30 minutes. Thank you for coming." His voice was hoarse, like he'd been crying. "I know you have no reason to hear me out. 29 minutes. He flinched, but nodded. "When I left your apartment 5 years ago, I meant every word I said. I was going to end my marriage, file for custody, come back for you. I had it all planned out. Plans change." Vanessa found a credit card charge from the tow truck company. She hired a private investigator who tracked everything, where I'd been, who I'd been with. She confronted me the day after I left you, and she completely fell apart. Wilma said nothing. His problems with his wife weren't her concern. She threatened to kill herself. Said she'd take Alice with her, drive them both off a bridge. I thought she was bluffing until she actually got in the car with Alice and started driving toward the expressway. I had to call the police to stop her. Despite herself, Wilma felt a chill. That's psychotic. Yes. She was hospitalized for 2 weeks, diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, severe depression, and the custody evaluator made it very clear. Any instability on my part would result in losing Alice. Any new relationships, any sudden changes, anything that could be construed as prioritizing my personal life over my daughter's well-being. So you abandoned me to look like a good father. I made the only choice I could live with. I couldn't let my daughter die because I fell in love with someone else. The words "fell in love" hit her like a slap. Don't you dare say that. It's true. I fell in love with you in 3 days. Watching you save Alice, watching you fight for everything you had, seeing your strength. I'd never met anyone like you. I still haven't. Pretty words don't fix anything. I know. I'm just trying to explain why I couldn't call, couldn't text, couldn't have any contact. For 6 months, I lived in hell, seeing Vanessa every day, pretending our marriage might work. Knowing you were out there thinking I'd lied to you. You did lie. You promised you'd come back. And I tried to. He pulled out his phone, showed her a folder of documents. These are the investigation reports. I hired 3 different firms to find you, but you'd moved. Your phone was disconnected. The diner didn't have employee records going back that far. The nursing home said you'd quit. You vanished. Wilma looked at the dates on the reports. They started 7 months after he'd left her. Too little, too late. I know, but I never stopped looking. Even after Vanessa left, even after the divorce was final. I searched for you because I couldn't forgive myself for what I'd done. For breaking my promise. You should have tried harder. You're right. He met her eyes. I should have hired investigators sooner. Should have fought the custody evaluator. Should have found a way to contact you safely. I failed you. I failed our daughter. And I will spend the rest of my life regretting that. Wilma wanted to stay angry, to hold on to her rage like a shield, but his genuine devastation was making it harder. Your assistant told me to stay away, said you'd get a restraining order if I kept calling. I never authorized that, I swear. When I found out about it, 2 years later, when I was going through old phone records, I fired her immediately, but by then you were gone, and I had no way to tell you the truth. The truth that you're a billionaire who let his assistant threaten a pregnant woman. That truth? He flinched. I should have monitored my staff better. Should have made sure everyone knew you were off limits. That's on me too. They sat in silence. Wilma's 30-minute timer buzzed. She ignored it. Tell me about her, Brett said quietly. Our daughter. What's her name? Zara, after my mother. Zara. He tested the name, tears spilling down his face. That's beautiful. Is she healthy, happy? She's perfect, smart, kind, curious. She asks a million questions. She loves drawing and dancing and anything involving dinosaurs. Dinosaurs, he laughed, the sound broken. Alice loved dinosaurs at that age too. Don't compare them. I'm not, God, Wilma, I missed everything. Her birth, her first words, 5 years of her life. I can never get that back. No, you can't. But I want to know her now. Please, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve that. But she deserves to know her father. And I need to know my daughter. Wilma studied him, the grey in his hair, the lines around his eyes, the way his hands shook slightly as he held his drink. He looked genuinely destroyed. But she'd believed him once before, and it had cost her everything. What about Alice? Your perfect family? Alice is 14 now. She remembers you, actually. She asks about you sometimes. The woman who saved her during the storm. She knows I've been looking for you. Does she know about Zara? Not yet, but I want to tell her. I want my daughters to know each other. They're not sisters, they're strangers who share DNA. Then let them not be strangers. Please. He leaned forward, desperation clear in every line of his body. I know I have no right to ask for anything, but I'm begging you. Let me be part of Zara's life. I'll do whatever you want, follow whatever rules you set. Just, please, give me a chance. Wilma wanted to say no, wanted to protect herself and Zara from the inevitable disappointment when he got bored, or his life got complicated, or he remembered that they didn't fit into his billionaire world. But then she remembered Zara's voice asking if the crying man was her daddy. Remembered her daughter's face when she talked about other kids having fathers. Remembered being 5 years old herself after her own father left, the hole it created that never quite healed. You don't get to just show up and play father, she said finally. You want to know her? You earn it. You prove you can show up consistently, no broken promises, no disappearing when things get hard. Anything, tell me what you need. I need you to move to Atlanta. Not for visits, not for weekends. I need you there, in the same city, available whenever Zara needs you. He didn't hesitate. Done. I'll relocate Wayne Global's headquarters, or I'll work remotely, whatever it takes. I need you to start slow. Let her get to know you gradually. Don't overwhelm her. Yes, absolutely. And if you break her heart the way you broke mine, I will destroy you. I don't care how many billions you have. I will make your life hell. Do you understand? I understand, and I won't. I promise you, Wilma, I won't fail her the way I failed you. She stood up. We'll see. I'm going back to Atlanta next week. If you want to meet her properly, be there. I'll send you details. Wilma, wait. He stood too. Can I ask you something? Is there someone else? A partner? A husband? That's none of your business. I just need to know if she has a father figure, if I'm intruding on a family you've built. She has me. That's been enough for 5 years. It'll keep being enough. She walked out of the bar, leaving him standing there. Made it to her room before the shaking started. She'd just agreed to let Brett Wayne into their lives, into Zara's life. After 5 years of keeping him out, of protecting herself and her daughter from the man who'd destroyed them. What had she done? But when she checked on Zara, sleeping peacefully in the hotel bed, she knew why she'd said yes. Her daughter deserved a chance at a relationship with her father, even if it meant Wilma had to face her own demons, even if it meant risking her heart all over again. The next morning, as they prepared to fly home, Zara asked, "Mommy, will I see my daddy again?" "Yes, baby, you will." "Good." Zara smiled, content. "I want to ask him about dinosaurs." Wilma pulled her daughter close, breathed in her baby shampoo scent, and hoped to God she was making the right choice. Because if Brett Wayne broke Zara's heart, Wilma would make sure he regretted ever stepping back into their lives. She'd survived his abandonment once, but watching him abandon their daughter, that would break her beyond repair. And this time, she wouldn't forgive. This time, she'd make him pay. Chapter 8. The Test. Brett Wayne appeared at Gibson Care on a Monday morning carrying 2 coffees and a box of donuts. Wilma's receptionist buzzed her office with barely concealed excitement. "Ma'am, there's a Brett Wayne here to see you. He says you're expecting him." Wilma had been expecting him, just not this soon. She'd texted him her office address 3 days ago, thinking he'd need time to arrange things to clear his schedule. Apparently not. She found him in the lobby, looking completely out of place in a $2,000 suit surrounded by her patients, mostly working poor, some homeless, all looking at this billionaire like he'd wandered in from another planet. "You brought donuts." It wasn't a question. "You mentioned in Chicago that Zara loves chocolate frosted. I thought—" He trailed off, suddenly uncertain. "Is this okay? I should have asked first." Despite herself, Wilma felt something soften. He'd remembered. One offhand comment she'd made about their daughter, and he'd remembered. "Follow me." She led him to her office. Functional, nothing fancy. Medical journals stacked on every surface. He took in the space with careful attention, like he was trying to understand her through her surroundings. "When can I meet her?" he asked quietly. "Not yet. First, you prove you can be consistent. Show up here every day for a month. Let me see if you mean what you say." "Every day?" He looked surprised, but not angry. "What do you want me to do?" "Whatever needs doing. File paperwork, clean vans, answer phones. I don't care. You want to know your daughter? You start by understanding the world she lives in." "Done." No hesitation. "What time should I be here?" 7 a.m. We leave at 6 p.m. "I'll be here." And incredibly, he was. Every single day. Brett Wayne, billionaire CEO, showed up in jeans and a t-shirt and did whatever menial task Wilma assigned him. He mopped floors without complaint. He filed patient records for hours. He helped load supplies into the vans, his expensive watch replaced with a basic digital one so it wouldn't get damaged. Her staff whispered about it constantly. The nurses were skeptical. "That's Brett Wayne, right? What's he doing here?" The patients were confused. "Is that the CEO? Why is he cleaning the bathroom?" After 2 weeks, Wilma found him in the supply closet, organizing inventory. "You don't have to do this," she said. "You could hire someone to—" "I'm not trying to buy my way into Zara's life. I'm trying to prove I can show up and do the work. That's what you asked for. Most people would have given up by now. I'm not most people. And she's not most daughters. She's mine." He paused. "Ours." Something in her chest twisted. She left before she could say something stupid. In the 4th week, Alice appeared. Wilma was doing paperwork when her receptionist buzzed again. There's a teenage girl here asking for Mr. Wayne. She says she's his daughter." Alice had grown from the sick 8-year-old Wilma remembered. She was 14 now, tall and gangly, with Brett's eyes and a carefully neutral expression that Wilma recognized. She'd perfected the same mask herself. "You're Wilma," Alice said. Not a question. "I am. I remember you, from the storm. You saved my life." "I did my job." "No," Alice shook her head. "You did more than that. You cared. I remember that." She glanced around the clinic. "My dad says you have a daughter, my sister." Sister. The word hung between them, strange and charged. "I do. Her name is Zara. Can I meet her?" Wilma studied this teenager who'd done nothing wrong, who'd been caught in the same mess that had destroyed everything. "Why?" "Because my dad has been miserable for 5 years. He searched for you constantly, and I want to know the sister I didn't know I had." Alice met her eyes. "I know he hurt you. I'm not asking you to forgive him. But Zara, she didn't do anything wrong. Neither did I. We're just kids who deserve to know each other." The honesty of it broke through Wilma's defenses. "You're right. You didn't do anything wrong. So can I meet her?" Wilma made a decision that terrified her. "Saturday, come to my house. I'll introduce you." Alice's face lit up. "Really? Really? But Alice, if either of you hurt her, we won't. I promise. I just want to know my sister." Saturday came too fast. Wilma spent the morning cleaning her house obsessively, anxiety making her hands shake. She'd told Zara that someone special was coming to visit, a girl who was her big sister. Zara had been excited in that uncomplicated way only 5-year-olds managed. Brett and Alice arrived together, both looking nervous. Brett held a wrapped present, something small, carefully chosen. Alice carried a book about dinosaurs. "This is Zara," Wilma said, heart hammering. "Zara, this is your daddy, and your big sister Alice." Zara looked at Brett with those eyes they shared. "You're my daddy? The one Mommy said made mistakes?" Brett dropped to his knees so he was at her eye level. "Yes, baby, I made very big mistakes, but I'm here now and I'm not going anywhere ever again, if you'll let me know you." "Do you like dinosaurs?" He laughed, the sound broken and beautiful. "I love dinosaurs. What's your favorite?" "Triceratops. They have 3 horns, and they're very strong." "Like you," Zara giggled. "Mommy says I'm strong like her." "Your mommy is the strongest person I've ever met. If you're like her, you must be incredibly strong." They spent 3 hours together. Alice read to Zara from the dinosaur book. Brett played with her, carefully, like she was made of glass, like he couldn't believe she was real. Wilma watched from the kitchen, coffee cooling in her hands, emotions a tangled mess. When they left, Zara hugged Alice. "I like having a big sister. I like being a big sister," Alice said, tears in her eyes. Then Zara turned to Brett. "Will you come back? Every time your mommy lets me, I promise." After they left, Zara climbed into Wilma's lap. "I like my daddy." "Yeah? He's nice. And he looks sad. Did he make you very sad too?" "Yes, baby, he did. But you're letting him come back anyway. Because you deserve to know your father. Even if it's hard for me." Zara hugged her tight. "You're the best mommy ever." Wilma held her daughter and cried silently, hoping she was doing the right thing. Because Brett Wayne was back in their lives now, whether she liked it or not. And she had no idea if she was strong enough to survive having him close again. But for Zara, she'd try, even if it destroyed her. Chapter 9. The War. The first sign something was wrong came on a Tuesday morning. Wilma's business manager knocked on her office door, face pale. "We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Legal. Federal investigators are asking questions about our billing practices." Wilma's blood went cold. "What? That's impossible. Every bill is documented, verified." "I know, but someone filed a complaint alleging Medicare fraud. The investigators want our records." For the next week, Wilma lived in hell. Federal agents combed through Gibson Care's files. The media got wind of the investigation. Healthcare hero or healthcare fraud, the headlines screamed. Her investors panicked. 3 pulled out immediately, citing concerns about liability. The documents appeared on day 5, billing records allegedly proving systematic fraud, except Wilma had never seen them before. They were forgeries, but proving that would take time she didn't have. Gibson Care was collapsing. Everything she'd built was crumbling, and she couldn't understand why. Who would do this? Brett showed up at her office at midnight to find her surrounded by paperwork, tears streaming down her face. "Wilma, what's wrong?" "Everything. Someone's destroying my company, forging documents, filing false complaints. My reputation is ruined. Let me help." "How? This isn't something money can fix." "No, but resources can. Lawyers, forensic accountants, investigators. Let me hire the best. We'll prove these documents are fake." "I can't afford that." "I can. Please, let me do this." She was too exhausted to argue. "Fine." Brett's team descended like avenging angels. Within 3 days, they'd traced the forged documents to a rival healthcare company, Healthbridge Systems, a national chain that had been trying to expand into Georgia. But that was just the surface. The real discovery came when his forensic accountant followed the money trail. "Healthbridge is funded through a shell corporation," the accountant explained, "and that shell corporation is owned by Vanessa Wayne." The name hit Wilma like a physical blow. "Your ex-wife." Brett's face went white. "She's been funding this, but why?" "Revenge," Wilma said quietly. "Against both of us. She wants to destroy what I've built and hurt you in the process." Brett looked sick. "I never thought she'd go this far." "You underestimated her." For the first time since Chicago, they worked as a team. Strategy sessions at midnight, evidence gathering, building a case. Wilma watched Brett operate, brilliant, ruthless when necessary, protective. She saw the businessman who'd built an empire, who knew how to fight and win. They had one shot, a meeting with the federal investigators, presenting evidence of the forgery and Vanessa's involvement. If it worked, Gibson Care would be cleared. If it failed, Wilma would lose everything. The night before the meeting, Brett found her on her office couch, staring at the ceiling. "You should go home. Get some sleep." "I can't sleep. What if this doesn't work?" He sat beside her. "It will work, I promise." "You're big on promises." "I know, and I broke the most important one I ever made. But Wilma, I'm not that man anymore. The one who left you. He was a coward who chose the easy path. This man, the one sitting here, he's learned what really matters." "And what's that?" "You, Zara, the family we could be if you'd let us." The words hung in the air. Wilma turned to look at him. "Brett, I love you. I fell in love with you 5 years ago and I've never stopped. I know you can't forgive me. I understand that. But I need you to know, everything I am, everything I have, it's yours. I would burn down my whole world for you and Zara." "Don't say things you don't mean." "I mean every word." The meeting the next day was brutal. Federal investigators skeptical, Vanessa's lawyers aggressive. But Brett's team had done their homework. They presented ironclad evidence, digital trails, forged signatures, Shell Corporation records. By the end, even the investigators looked convinced. Gibson Care was cleared within the week. Better yet, the publicity turned in Wilma's favor. News outlets ran stories about the woman who'd been targeted by a jealous billionaire's ex-wife. Donations flooded in, new investors appeared. Within a month, Gibson Care was stronger than ever, but Wilma was exhausted. The stress had taken its toll, and she knew her expansion plans would have to wait. Except they didn't. A consortium of investors approached with an offer: national expansion, 50 cities, 200 million in funding. "There's one condition," the lead investor said. "You relocate to New York for 18 months to oversee the launch." New York, away from Atlanta, away from the life she'd built, away from Brett, just when things were finally, good, stable. She didn't even know anymore. She told him over dinner at her house, Zara asleep upstairs. It's everything I've dreamed of. National expansion. Real impact. Then you have to go. His voice was steady, but she could see the pain in his eyes. It means leaving Atlanta, leaving me. You can say it. You. And I don't know if I can do that. Brett reached across the table, took her hand. The touch sent electricity through her. Then don't. Let me come with you. What? I'll liquidate Wayne Global, or sell it, or let it run remotely, whatever it takes. Wherever you go, I go. You can't just abandon your company. I abandoned you once to save my company. Look how that turned out. I'm not making that mistake again. Brett, I love you, Wilma. I'm in love with you. And I know you don't feel the same way, not after everything, but I don't care. I'll follow you to New York. I'll work for Gibson Care if you'll let me. I'll be whatever you need me to be. Just don't ask me to watch you leave again. Wilma pulled her hand away. I can't think about this right now. I'm not asking you to think. I'm telling you my decision. You take this opportunity, you build your empire, and I'll be right there beside you, supporting you, loving you, waiting for you to maybe, someday, forgive me enough to let me in. She stood up, paced to the window. New York, national expansion, everything she'd worked for, and Brett Wayne offering to give up his world to be part of hers. Why? She whispered. Why would you do that? Because 5 years ago I chose wrong. I chose my old life, my comfort, my fear over you. I lost everything anyway, my marriage, my peace. 5 years of our daughter's life. This time I choose right. I choose you and Zara. I choose us. Wilma turned to face him. If you come to New York, you come as my equal partner, not my savior, not someone I owe, my partner in building this empire. Yes. Anything. And you understand that I might never forgive you completely? That there might always be a part of me that remembers how you broke me? I understand, and I'll spend my life trying to be worthy of you anyway. She studied his face, the grey in his hair, the lines that hadn't been there before. He looked older, tired, real. You hurt me. I know. You abandoned me when I needed you most. I know. And now you're asking me to trust you again. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to let me prove I'm trustworthy every day for the rest of our lives. Wilma closed her eyes, thought about Zara, who loved her father, about Alice, who'd become a real part of their lives, about the future they could have if she was brave enough to risk her heart one more time. We leave in 3 months, she said finally. You better be ready. Brett's face lit up. He crossed to her, stopped just short of touching. May I hug you? She nodded. He pulled her close, and God, it felt right, like coming home to a place she'd tried so hard to forget. She let herself stay there for exactly 10 seconds, then pulled away. This doesn't mean I forgive you. I know. And it doesn't mean we're together. I know. I'm doing this for Zara, because she deserves to have both her parents in her life. He smiled, sad and hopeful. Whatever you need to tell yourself. 3 months. 3 months to prepare for the biggest move of her life. 3 months with Brett Wayne becoming more integrated into their daily routine. 3 months to protect her heart, except her heart had other ideas. Because despite everything, despite the pain and anger and betrayal, some traitorous part of her was falling for him all over again. And that terrified her more than any business expansion ever could. Chapter 10. The Reunion. The Gibson Care National Headquarters opening gala fell on a cold November evening in New York City. Wilma stood in her penthouse apartment, owned by the company, a far cry from her Atlanta starter home, and barely recognized her reflection. The woman in the mirror wore a custom designer gown, diamond earrings she'd bought herself, and an expression of hard-won confidence. 500 people downstairs, press from major outlets, industry leaders who'd laughed at her mobile clinic idea, now clamoring for partnerships. She'd done it, built an empire from nothing but determination and the refusal to stay broken. "Mommy, you look like a princess." Zara bounced into the room wearing a navy velvet dress. 7 years old now, brilliant and kind, and everything Wilma had hoped to raise. "You look pretty beautiful yourself, baby girl. Is Daddy coming?" The question still made Wilma's chest tight. Daddy. Zara said it so easily now, like Brett had always been there. In the 6 months since moving to New York, he'd proven himself in ways Wilma never expected. He'd liquidated Wayne Global, invested everything in Gibson Care's expansion, worked beside her as COO, never trying to take control, always supporting her vision, and he'd loved their daughter with an intensity that sometimes made Wilma want to cry, making up for lost time, showing up for every school event, every bedtime story, every skinned knee. He's already downstairs making sure everything's ready. "He's been different lately," Alice said from the doorway. 15 now, sophisticated in a way that made Wilma's heart ache. Nervous, like he's waiting for something. Wilma knew exactly what he was waiting for. 3 months ago, after the scandal had died down and they'd moved to New York, Brett had asked her the question that haunted her. "Can you ever forgive me?" She hadn't answered, had walked away, needing more time, needing to be sure. And he'd waited. God, the man had waited with patience she wouldn't have believed him capable of, never pushing, never demanding, just there, present, proving himself day after day. The gala was packed when they arrived. Wilma worked the room, shaking hands, accepting congratulations. Gibson Care now operated in 50 cities, served 200,000 patients annually. She'd accomplished everything she'd dreamed of and more. But when she took the stage for her speech, she scanned the crowd for one face. Brett stood off to the side, not front and center, giving her the spotlight. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Years of history, pain, love, possibility. 5 years ago, she began, her voice carrying through the ballroom. I was nobody. A nursing assistant working 3 jobs, living in a one-room apartment with holes in my shoes. Then a stranger walked into my life during a storm, and everything changed. She told the story. Not all of it. Some things were too private, but enough. The abandonment, the pregnancy, the years of building something from nothing, the return, the proving himself, the slow rebuilding of trust. That man spent the last 18 months working beside me, not leading, not taking over, just supporting my vision while proving he could show up every single day. She found him in the crowd. Brett Wayne gave up his empire to help me build mine, and tonight I want to publicly acknowledge what that means. She walked off the stage directly to him. The crowd parted, sensing something significant happening. You asked me 3 months ago if I could forgive you, she said, microphone still in hand so everyone could hear. I didn't answer because I wasn't sure, but I'm sure now. Brett's eyes were wet. Wilma, Brett Wayne, you broke my heart. You abandoned me when I needed you most. You missed 5 years of our daughter's life. Those are facts I can't change. She took a breath. But you came back. You proved yourself. You became the partner I needed. And most importantly, you became the father Zara deserves. She took his hand. I forgive you. Not because you've earned it, though you have. Not because I'm weak, I'm stronger than I've ever been, but because holding on to that anger was the last way you still had power over me, and I'm taking that power back by choosing to let it go. Brett made a sound like a sob. I don't deserve you. I never have. But I swear, every day for the rest of my life, I'll work to be worthy. I know you will, because that's who you've become. She smiled. And Brett, I love you too. Took me long enough to admit it, but I do. I'm in love with you, with who you are now, with the man who's proven he can stay. He cupped her face with both hands. You mean it? Every word. But Brett, if you ever leave again, I won't. I'm never leaving. You and Zara are everything, more than everything. He kissed her, soft and reverent, in front of 500 people. The ballroom erupted in applause, but Wilma barely heard it. She was kissing Brett Wayne, the man who'd broken her and then spent years putting her back together. The man she'd hated and loved in equal measure. The man who'd finally proven he was worth the risk. They stayed at the gala for another hour, then escaped to her penthouse. Alice took Zara to her room, their room, since Alice spent most weekends with them now. Finally, they were alone. "I can't believe you forgave me," Brett whispered. "I never thought. Shut up and kiss me properly." He did. Pulled her close, kissed her like he'd been starving for it. And maybe he had. Maybe they both had. They made love that night, slowly, reverently, making up for years lost. He touched her like she was precious, like he couldn't believe she was real. She let herself be vulnerable, let herself trust him with her body and her heart. After they lay tangled together, her head on his chest. "I have something to tell you," she said quietly. "What?" "I'm pregnant." Brett went completely still. "What?" "Found out last week. Wasn't sure if I was ready to tell you yet. But after tonight..." She looked up at him. "We're having another baby." His face crumbled. He rolled on top of her, carefully, mindfully of her pregnancy, and kissed her everywhere. "Another baby. God, Wilma, another chance. You better not screw this one up." "I won't, I swear. I'm going to be there for every moment, every doctor's appointment, every milestone, everything." He kissed her stomach gently. "I promise you, little one, your daddy's not going anywhere." 1 year later, they married in Atlanta. Small ceremony in the community where it all started. Zara was flower girl, 8 years old, and convinced she'd orchestrated the whole thing. Alice stood as maid of honor, and Wilma wore her mother's gold necklace with a simple white gown. As they exchanged vows, Brett took her hands. "I fell in love with you when you were at your lowest, but you made me earn you when you were at your highest. That's my privilege and my pride." "You broke me," Wilma said. "I rebuilt myself. You came back. I made you wait. Now we build together, as equals." The kiss was tender, full of promise. Their son, 3 months old, perfect, cooed from his grandmother's arms. That night, in their hotel room, Wilma looked at her wedding ring, then at Brett sleeping beside her. She thought about the scared, exhausted woman who'd taken in a stranger during a storm 7 years ago. That woman would never have believed this ending. But that woman also didn't know her own strength, didn't know she could survive abandonment, build an empire, become someone who made billionaires give up everything just for a chance to be in her orbit. She'd won. Not by getting Brett back, by becoming so powerful in her own right that he had to prove himself worthy. "Thank you for leaving," she whispered into the darkness, "because you forced me to find myself. And when you came back, I was finally whole enough to let you in." Brett stirred, pulled her closer. "I heard that." "Good, never forget it." "Never." He kissed her shoulder. "Now let's build an empire together. Our empire, for our family." Wilma smiled against his chest. Together. Finally, wonderfully, completely together. And this time, she believed he'd stay. This time, she knew they'd both earned it.